embracing technology, now is the time for HR practitioners to begin embracing technology as well into the workspace and making technology work for you to support your talent strategy, to support all the strategic initiatives that an organization will naturally be doing. We want to use the technology to support the world of work and to support our organizations, and we have to understand it first in order to be able to provide that support to our respective organizations.
I like how you introduce the program. It sets the tone for the rest of the conversation because there are a lot of elements there that we can pick out and expand on. But the first actually comes from a conversation that we were having before we came out live, and that is HR in the workplace. And Colin, you've spoken a lot about how HR has evolved within the workplace. If you can share that with us and the viewing public this morning.
Yes, I introduced SAP to Trinidad and the Caribbean back in 2000, so I have quite a lot of history here in the islands. And then the SAP ERP solution was mostly focused on the back office financials with a small piece of core HR and payroll. At the same time, in San Francisco, was a small company called SuccessFactors that was then evolving into the talent management workspace that then sort of built up a series of modules that SAP later acquired in 2012 and has now evolved that product called SAP SuccessFactors into a whole hire-to-retire suite from the core HR with the recruiting management and marketing and connectivity with the internet and attracting talent. Once you have the talent on board and you've selected your candidates, the onboarding process. Once you have your candidate on board, then you need to assess that candidate. So set the candidate goals and performance targets. And that assessment, what is their career path? So career development planning and succession planning, which is very important, especially as a lot of the employees in the workspace are getting older towards retirement. We need to bring on new blood to fulfill those roles. And then compensation planning, very important to make sure that you are paying your talent the right remuneration package so they don't leave and go somewhere else. And you have to go through the whole process, which is very expensive. So retaining your talent is key. So, and then also the learning process. To evolve in your job, you need to have skills. So that's all linked to succession planning, career development planning. So what you have right now is a complete suite which gives the CHRO, the Chief HR Officer of the company, or the HR Vice President, really that empowerment of knowledge and information to get them a seat at the table, which they didn't have before because normally, or not normally, in the past, HR fell underneath either IT or finance. Mm-hmm. Now it has its own place at the table.
And there is a misconception that HR deals only with the hiring, the recruitment, or even the discipline or release of an employee. But you just said it's a lot more than that.
It is. That was what we used to look at HR 10, 15 years ago. And now it's evolved into really a technology platform and a whole division of the company. Manage that, just the sickness, time off, employee assessment, rehiring. Are we going to do an acquisition? Are we going to downsize? What's our expansion plans? How do we plan for that? HR is key to really the whole evolvement of the company.
Yes, certainly. And want to come back to this year's theme, HR in the metaverse, because if you take a look at technology and how technology is affecting everyone in 2018, if we speak about virtual reality headsets, it was just over 800 million that was sold globally. Now, you're seeing up to 4.2 billion headsets being sold annually. So exactly how is the metaverse affecting human resource management?
Well, technology on the whole is causing major shifts in the workspace, and it also creates opportunities, but there's a bit of fear around it as well. I think HR, and in terms of the employee and managing organizations to prepare for what's happening, needs to distill the fears and prepare the workforce with the new skills that are required for the future. And that's what we're attempting to do here with this conference, by bringing lots of people together in one space to discuss and distill the issues that we are going to be facing going forward as well, even what we are facing right now. So there's fear around job loss For example, a lot of people feel with AI that a lot of jobs will be lost, but we need to prepare the workforce for the new skills that are evolving. Just like every other industrial revolution that took place in the past, when we saw a transition to automation and all of that, people had these fears that, when jobs are lost, there will be no role for them going forward. But we eventually prepared the workforce and the new generation of workforce for what's new and what was evolving. And we have to do the same in this particular edition of the revolution, as we'd say, right? The fourth industrial revolution. And we are attempting to do exactly that by bringing our practitioners and experts into the space, and also solution providers. We want HR practitioners to conduct business like any other profession does. B2B, B2C, bring the relevant parties together, get a sense of what's on the market, what's available to you, so that you can now assist your organization in charting the way forward for the changes that are happening as well. Mm-hmm. As Colin identified, the function of HR evolved over the years. You had this perception that we just here to hire and fire, and people would actually say that, oh, your job is just to hire and fire. No, my job is not that, actually. It's a lot more. Companies now are making big business decisions. You're seeing a lot of growth in our region, for example, a lot of decisions being made to enter Suriname, enter Guyana, because what's happening across there. That in itself has people implications for it. What's the strategy for entering these new markets? Even if you go total greenfield, even if you were to partner, acquire equity in a local firm, you still have to have a strategy for the people, for the merger of different ideologies, right? And how do we even prepare for the cultural shift, for a new legal environment, for a totally different landscape? That requires HR's input from the beginning when strategy is being discussed. And we need our practitioners and our leaders to understand that. So if you look at some of the presenters we have at our conference, yes, there are HR practitioners who are presenting, well-known practitioners too. You have Georgia Donaldson, you have Richard Solomon, Charlene Pedro, right? Even on our board, we have two board members, Bunny Rambajan and Desmond Lawrence, who are presenting. But in the middle of that are CEOs, C-suite executives, people who are not even HR practitioners. Because if we want to be the change and see the change and be a part of that change, we have to hear from these leaders and what they expect of us just the same way. Mm. So we do have our C-suite panel, the president of ETech, right? The CEO of Cyber Eye Limited, right? Ian John. We have Nadia Bayer from 800 Tech. I mean, a lot of big firms, Lorenzo Hodges, a lot of big firms and a lot of big players in the industry and the market coming together to discuss critical issues that is impacting us and impacting our profession and the world of work. In addition to public sector opinion is critical. So we do have the Minister of Public Administration. She's opening day 2. And public administration, as you know, is responsible for the function of HR in the public service. Yeah. So if we're talking technology and technology solutions, the government being the largest employer in the country have to be involved in that conversation and that narrative just the same way. We have the Minister of Health. We will be focusing on health and wellness. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of change and the impact that it has had on people in terms of their mental health and their physical health as well too. So we are looking at how we can incorporate digitization into healthcare and into healthcare solutions that will impact the workforce in a positive way. Because now more than ever, our workforce, our employees need that kind of support. A lot of trauma took place over the last couple of years. Employees have lost loved ones. They've had to even not only lose them, but not even in some instances being able to say goodbye to them, not being able to be there with them when they had their last moments. And that in itself has created trauma. And you're seeing it being exemplified in different spaces and in different ways. You know, people wondering why we have an increase in domestic violence, why we're seeing so much violence in the school. Yes, there's a number of things that happen, and we haven't done the research around it. But look at what we experienced over the last 3 years. And these are the same people entering into your workspace every single day. Either a perpetrator, a victim, or somebody who've experienced some sort of trauma. So we couldn't have this conference without talking about healthcare and dealing with mental health in the workspace and how technology could assist with it as well.
That let's speak about that for a moment, Bengal, in regards to focus on technology. I like all the points that you've raised, particularly in healthcare, but to start with technology, in your work around Latin America, North America, and the Caribbean, particularly in the Caribbean, your analysis of companies and their acceptance of new technologies, incorporating it into HR management.
Well, as I said, the Success Factors was created in 2000. They initiated on cloud out of San Francisco, so they adopted the cloud technology in the early stages. The Caribbean wasn't ready for that. Mm-hmm. We were primarily based upon on-premise systems here until the technology, the infrastructure, caught up. Now we have high-speed connectivity across all the Caribbean islands. So that's made the advent of cloud and embracing cloud technology far easier. So that was one main obstacle to get over with IT, and also IT losing the power where the HR department can deal directly with their own technology needs with a vendor like ourselves, SAP SuccessFactors and Horizons. We do the implementations of those solutions. And also now mobile apps, your smartwatch, your smartphone, you can access all these modules via the smart app. So you can actually do the interviews over the phone, you can do your time off, sick leave, all through the mobile device. So yes, people are adopting technology now at a high rate.
How does this affect equity in the workplace? People may not have the affordability or the availability of technology. They may not necessarily be able to afford it, or it's available to them. It's
getting more affordable, and actually SAP is helping with that. Actually, on the smaller group of licenses are helping with the pricing in that area to allow companies that were small, medium-sized businesses to be able to embrace that technology, and also by doing many thousand implementations, they've now incorporated best business practices inside the solution. So deploying the solution is a lot faster, and therefore more economical. And that also brings those best business practices to companies here in the Caribbean that may have been doing different processes their own way for decades. But this is the best way that's been proven to do it, most efficient. Embrace the process.
Again, in your experience, what are some of the key factors that companies need to address in regards to HR management? Because we're speaking about the adoption of new technology constantly evolving, but what are some of the other key issues that need to be addressed?
First of all, bring in HR directly. This is not an IT-driven solution for HR. It's a product that meets the HR needs. Let them have a voice on the requirements and what they are looking for, because with the solution that we offer many different modules. We can implement any module, any order. So really, what are the burning factors in that company? Listening to the needs of the company. So maybe that they're growing rapidly, so let's deploy recruiting first. No, we've got an issue with retention because other companies are poaching our staff. Well, let's look at goals, performance, and career development and learning to see how we can retain those staff. So it's really looking at what the company's long-term objectives, short and long-term objectives are, to really defining what are their priorities and then deploying the technologies around those priorities, and then giving them that information available for the HR executive team to guide the CEO and the company what's really happening, and also doing surveys internally with products like Qualtrics, which is also an SAP product that integrates with SuccessFactors. So doing employee surveys, how are the employees feeling about a certain matter? That's very important so they have buy-in into where the company is going. I think that's very important.
And that ties back into directly what you were addressing as well in regards to important factors, because you've mentioned a greater focus on health in the environment and how it impacts upon HR management. But as we're coming to the conclusion of this morning's discussion, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Focusing a bit more on HR being the health of an organization, I think that's one of the themes that we can take away from this morning's discussions. Why is it important that you have these conferences and discussions You're incorporating ministers, you're incorporating CEOs. What about the voice of employees?
Yeah, it's important for always for us to host events like this, conferences, bringing relevant people together, because change is happening right before our eyes, and our profession, like any other, is evolving. And we cannot hold on to the tricks of the past or the things that worked in the past when you have an evolving workforce. So you said the employees. The employee needs have changed. The support that they require has shifted. They are no longer willing to sit with your organization for 10, 20, 15 years. There isn't a young generation workforce right now or person right now saying, I want to retire in your company. It's just not happening. Yes. That was things that our grandparents and great-grandparents did. If you don't understand the change that has changed in the workforce dynamics, then you will be left behind in terms of that war where talent is concerned. We are all fighting for X amount of resources. Companies are competing with each other for talent. That is the reality. Yes, there's a labor supply issue here, demand versus supply, and the skills that the employer is looking for. It's short in supply. It may have a lot of people on the market, but not necessarily with the right skills. Our job is to prepare our workforce and to retain the top talent that we have. We want to keep the people who are doing great stuff in our organization. So the support that SAP and other solutions provide to us, they're part of the solution, but the people element still remains. So you could have 1 million software available to you, but the people element in terms of how you implement, how you utilize that to your advantage is critical. Mm-hmm. How you utilize it to retain the top talent in your organization is critical, and that's part of the narrative. So if we don't understand the shift that has occurred, so Colin spoke a bit about surveys, right? If we are totally unaware that our employees need support, that they need flexibility, that, that they want to have that entrepreneurial spirit be accepted in the workspace, because we're seeing more the rise of the gig economy as well. If we are not aware that people don't want to work for 8 hours anymore, they don't mind coming and working on a different type of employment contract with you for 4 or 5 hours, and then they move on to do what they are passionate about at the end of the day. If we don't understand those shifts and provide solutions to balance the interests of the employee and that of the employer, and to make it work for the employer, an employee with an entrepreneurial spirit could actually help your business grow exponentially, because they see things through different lenses. They see time in a different way that the average worker doesn't. They see solutions to common problems just by being on the ground, because they have that mindset already. That they want to marry and make it work for you, and there are ways to make things work for you. And we want to bring employer, employee, and solution providers in the same space. So it cuts down the time. It cuts down, if we all could come to a common appreciation and understanding for what's happening, it makes everybody's job easier. And certainly we can make the kind of change and differences in our organization that could really, let me tell you, Keithan, an employer doesn't benefit if your workforce isn't growing and developing and evolving. You can only go as far and as fast as the people that you have in your organization. That's just the reality. It's the people that drive the change, that will support your vision, your mission, whatever your strategy is, right? And we need HR to be up there and center with you in terms of strategy, in terms of rolling out that strategy, so we can get people on board. We can get the buy-in of the staff. And we all have to work together, because it's in the interest of all of us that this company succeeds, this company does well, because it should redound to the benefit of everyone in the organization. So it's for that reason.
Just before we bid farewell, should companies actually want to be involved or take part in this conference? Because I know it's starting tomorrow.
Yeah, and there's still time to register.
Please just let them know very quickly.
There's still time to register for this conference. We have registration happening even while the conference is going on, because you could purchase a 3-day pass or a 1-day pass for each day. Plus, we do have our C-suite conversations that's happening on Wednesday. So if you just want to attend that alone, you could purchase a ticket for that. You could visit www.hermat.com, or you could find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where the link is available. Or you could contact our secretariat, 687-5522, to, of course, register and be a part of this conference. We've been encouraging all business leaders to not only to send their HR practitioners, but anyone who is managing people in an organization should be a part of this. We've long advocated for the decentralization of HR, recognizing that it's not only is HR responsibility for people management, but once you're leading a team, you are a people manager. So we want you in our space.
And if you'd like to meet Ms. Joseph St. Omer as well as Colin Mangle, you can do so at this particular conference. It's been a pleasure this morning. I could speak to you guys for a lot more to be said, but unfortunately time only says that this is where we bid farewell for now. But thank you guys very much.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate the opportunity.
Looking forward to the next conversation.
All right, we're available. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break on the program.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
My name is Carl Media, and the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of ever-increasing voice ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former Mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the Home Store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's, WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. My next guest this morning, well, we spoke about human resource in the workplace and the environment. We're now focusing on the public service, and to an extent it speaks about human resource as well, because it's coming from the Ministry of Public Administration. The Minister, Alison West, says the population will see increased levels of performance in the public service in the near future, hinting that the work-from-home policy, which they hope to come on board in 2024, could be one of the initiatives aimed at achieving this goal. Now, these statements are according to a newspaper article, a daily newspaper article, so we can only go based off of that. But I understand in recent times, I am aware that the minister has been speaking very positively about work from home policy, anticipating, hoping that 2024 is the year that we see TNT adopting such. Now let's expand on this. I'm joined by the retired head of the public service, Mr. Reginald Dumas. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Morning. I can hardly hear you.
Well, I'm not sure what's going on there. I hope the connectivity gets better as the conversation progresses. Could you hear me any better now?
Well, I just increased the volume on the phone, so I can hear you a bit better. But if you can do it from your end as well, that'd be helpful.
We'll try to certainly increase it from our end as well, sir. But in regards to increased levels of performance in the public service due to a work-from-home policy, not much in terms of details as to how this will be achieved, but what are your initial thoughts on these comments from Minister Alison West?
Minister who?
Alison West, Minister of Public Administration.
Well, as I recall, she was referring particularly to statements that Afra Raymond had made about the DPP. But if you're talking about the public service in general, yes, the public, not merely the public service, the public sector on the whole, because yes, the public service, yes, but the state enterprises, there are these special purpose state enterprises that the late Mr. Manning set up, and which I'm not sure function very well. We had a good example the other day of the education facilities company, which is costing the taxpayer quite a bit of money. So we need an overhaul of not merely the public sector, including all the points that the aspects that I just mentioned, but an overhaul of our system of governance. This top-down arrangement that we've had for decades, is not working. You know, it's the colonial system. It was beautifully implemented by Eric Williams, and I always tell people that this country is still being run by Williams, because the pattern of governance that he put in place is the one we still have. That is top-down. Virtual absence of consultation with whomever, and so on. You have it in the Constitution. If you look at Section 85 of the Constitution, the question of the relationship between minister and permanent secretary, you will see that the minister, it's down there in black and white, and it's not only the 76 Constitution, it was also word for word in the 62 Constitution. The minister is responsible for the direction and control. Mm-hmm. And the permanent secretary is responsible for supervision. Now, this is nonsense. Yes, the minister is part of the cabinet and part of the government, and the government has a policy, and whatever the government decides, the permanent secretary and the public service must carry out, whether they agree with it or not. But to say that the permanent secretary is responsible only for supervision is to defeat the purpose of good governance, because a supervisor is not a manager. And the word management appears nowhere in the Constitution. You can't ask people to manage when you are constitutionally telling them that they're not responsible for management. They're responsible for supervision. Mm-hmm. And when you go to direction and control, that means that the minister is the boss. I say so, therefore it is so, which again is a piece of nonsense. I remember a minister many years ago, dead now, who took this so literally that he insisted that applications for vacation leave or casual leave coming even from very junior members of his ministry had to go to him, not to the permanent secretary, not to the head of administration, because they don't need to go to the permanent secretary in a properly run system, had to go to him And when I discussed this with him, I said, well, you are the minister. Why are you looking at applications for leave? And he said, well, the Constitution says I'm responsible for direction and control. I am directing and controlling. Now, you can't get anywhere with this. So the whole system of governance has to be looked at. It's no good our pointing fingers at this one and the Prime Minister pointing fingers at the public service and saying they're this and that, and the public service pointing back fingers at we're not getting anywhere.
Now,
we have to have
Mr.
a
Dumas.
total revamp of the situation.
So then, do you believe, if we're looking at a total revamp of the system, that the functions or the role of a service commission...
I'm not hearing you too clearly.
The functions, the role of a service commission, if we're speaking about revamping the system, do you agree with the Prime Minister's comments that the 21st century, we shouldn't be living by service commissions still? That in 2024, he's bringing legislation to remove service commissions and replace it with an all-rounded one body, one independent body, tribunal, that is.
No, I would certainly not agree with the removal of service commissions in a society like this. The service commissions are there, and as a sort of buffer, if you like, between the politician and the other body, whether it is the Public Service Commission or the Teaching Service Commission, whether it's the Judicial and Legal Service Commission or Statutory Authority Service Commission, whichever. Because in the small society, like this one, a little over 1 million people tend to go berserk over power and control. I just mentioned the issue of direction and control. And to believe that the world revolves around them. I've seen this happen so often. You know, people get elected to office, they get a title, and suddenly all wisdom descends on them. Quite amazing, really. They don't have to talk to anybody, they don't have to talk down to people, because they know. They only come to you and call you brother and sister at the time of elections. After that, you are ladies and gentlemen. So, I would not agree with the proposal to remove the service commissions, but again, the service commissions must be looked at within the framework that I mentioned a few minutes ago of the system of governance that we have. Mm-hmm. How are the service commissions to function better? I see some proposals coming out a few days ago from the Police Service Commission, which startled me in part. I can't find them on the internet. I don't know where I saw it actually. But we have to look at the whole system. And I would certainly not agree with the removal of the commission, because that would mean that the politician would have direct control of the service, whichever the service is, whether it's the public service, whether it is the teaching service, whether it is the police service, whether it is the judicial legal service. You see what is going on now with the Prime Minister pointing fingers at the DPP, and the DPP saying that he has to get advice which would include legal advice because of the remarks that the Prime Minister has made and so on. Where are we going? So we have to look at the whole thing. And we haven't been doing that. Mm. We're just pointing fingers in our usual way, which we're very good at, pointing fingers and pull down people, instead of trying to identify the problem, identify the issue, and deal with it.
Now, in terms of a solution, Mr. Dumas, because if management or responsibility of management is distributed across several departments or several offices, what does that suggest about accountability and efficiency?
Accountability is not what it should be. It used to be fairly tight, but not anymore. You have the Auditor General going into offices and making, doing reports reports, etc. I don't know what comes of these reports. For instance, if you look at the Tobago House of Assembly, the Auditor General has made several reports over the years on the financial behavior of the Tobago House of Assembly, and has never been able, and I have all the reports there, has never been able to accept the offerings of the Tobago House of Assembly on its financial behavior. Yet no one has, as far as I know, has been sanctioned, and we simply continue. That is not good enough. How could it be good enough? You're dealing with taxpayers' money again. So accountability is not what it should be. I think here is where Minister West talked about the need to have a closer look at how things function, because you don't want just, for instance, in the rental of property, just to rent a property from someone and just pay the person at the end. And that is something that one should be looking at. We are saying that we spent $55 million on a building in Park Street that was never used. Who was paying the rent on this building? The DPP or the government? Clearly, the government. So for years, the government is paying rent on a building that is empty, and nobody asks a question. We only hear about it now after the lease is expired, that $55 million have been spent not only on rent, but on refurbishing. Where does responsibility lie? On the DPP or the government? If the DPP, and I've seen something to the effect of the Attorney General said that he had seen a document from the DPP saying that he accepted the building. Okay, if the DPP accepted the building and then changed his mind, why did the DPP change his mind? And if the contract was signed between the time of acceptance and the time of changing his mind, so that the contract is valid and you have to pay, why over the years has nothing been done, as far as one can make out, to have some other use for the building instead of leaving it empty? Were there no other government agencies that could have gone into the building? It was only the DPP's office? So it is not enough to point fingers at the DPP. The government has to look at itself as well. And here I come back to the point that I made earlier of the need to revamp, root and branch, our system of governance.
In terms of, as you mentioned, responsibility, if that be the case, and you're using the example of the $55 million for the rental of an office that was never used, who is to hold the government, as you just mentioned, responsible? And by the way, if you're about to say the people of Trinidad and Tobago, I'm not sure if that'll ever really happen.
Well, if it's not going to happen, then we're in trouble, because if the people of Trinidad and Tobago simply shrug their shoulders and walk away, then you leave it to governments to do what they want. The people of Trinidad and Tobago cannot say they have no responsibility. It's their money. How can you say you have no responsibility if this is taxpayers' money? I don't follow the logic. You can't then point fingers at the government and say we could have fixed roads, we could have improved the education system and complete the school in Reform Village, and so on, etc., etc. And at the same time say nothing about how the money is being spent. There have to be watchdogs. Now, in us again, come back to the small society. I know it's very difficult in the small society because you can be pulled down very easily. I've had my problems, so I know. I can speak from direct personal experience. You're talking too much. If you don't keep quiet, you know, such and such. So you keep quiet because you want to get this job, or you want your niece or your godson or whatever it is to get that job. So you keep quiet. There is the issue of the impending threat all the time, hanging over you like a sword of Damocles, ready to drop if you play the fool. I accept that. But if it is not going to be the people to talk out, then who is it going to be? The opposition.
Mr.
And does the opposition behave any differently when it is in office?
The reason why I said I'm not sure if that will ever happen is because, and not to dive too much into the political landscape that is Trinidad and Tobago, is that oftentimes, Mr. Dumas, we hear about the public complaining and we hear about the dissatisfaction, but we tend to forget about these things. So this morning we're having this conversation about management, we are having this conversation about responsibility, and other wonderful terminologies that apply to professionalism and discipline within the workplace. But we have a short memory span here in TNT.
I agree. And therefore, how do we point fingers at people? I'm saying that the fault is ours. I agree with you.
Yeah.
You can't have your cake and eat it. I have written, I don't know, I mentioned Section 85 a few minutes ago. You know, I first raised that matter when George Chambers was Prime Minister. And I said this section has to be altered because it is having a negative impact on the behavior and the work of the public service.
And it seems
when Chambers was Prime Minister, and I've raised it with every single Prime Minister since. And what has happened? Nothing. I have written articles, I have spoken to people, nothing happens.
Mr.
And
Dumas?
if I go to the opposition, and whichever the opposition might be at any particular time, and say, look, such and such, the next thing I will hear is that I am playing political games, and therefore I should not be taken seriously, because I have joined the other side, and so on, because you're very good in this society at cutting people down, as you know. And the thing just falls flat. So I accept what you say. I'm not in any way disagreeing with you that the fault lies with us.
Well, Mr. Dumas, that's the time for this morning's conversation. Thank you very much, nevertheless, and it's always a pleasure having these conversations with you. Though how at times it may seem and sound very unfortunate, nevertheless, for raising these issues, I appreciate your time and even sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you very much.
Do have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Reginald Dumas, former head of the public service here in Trinidad and Tobago. Oh my goodness, a lot to analyze from that conversation, a lot to analyze indeed. What if the issue of Section 85, Mr. Dumas has been raising since George Chambers was the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago? Boy, oh boy, what does that say about our current state, eh? Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a good day ahead. I wish you a great week ahead, and maybe a productive one, maybe a safe one, and should things go good, I'll tell you what, I'll see you again tomorrow morning for AM Prime at 6 a.m. I'm Keaton Shaw, and as always, keep well.
WESN.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the content capital.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the Home Store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's, WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook, Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.